So, what is piece control? My definition of piece control and how I use it in game is basically to build every piece possible to close the gap on my opponent and end fights as quickly as possible. Piece control is not really new. It's been used by popular creative warriors like Sway and X back in early chapter end seasons to get flashy trap kills on their opponents for some nasty clips you can see on screen. Then a few seasons after, you can see nasty box fight clips from the competitive community, but like without traps, just to quickly finish fights. Pros like Unknown Army and Reed have really made piece control become popular and more common in tournaments and anything you play in competitive today. Piece control is really tricky to learn, and there's some things I can't even teach. You'll just have to learn by playing, like when to go for the extra wall or not. But I'm about to give you 3 of the tips that I use to become a better mid-game fighter. First, if you could drop a like and a sub, it would be greatly appreciated because I put 100% into all my videos and only 40% of people who see my videos actually subscribe. Alright, after you've done that, let's get into tip number 1, which is to learn the building grid. This one is kind of simple, but overlooked. You can build anywhere and everywhere on Fortnite as long as it's connected to something. Most of the time there's space between you and your opponent, even when you're very close to each other. What you should do is practice free building like how I'm showing you on my screen right now. Nothing extra fancy, just build everything possible on the grid. You can go up, down, left, or right. Just make sure you build everything there is to build. Now that you've started practicing that, now would be a good time to introduce tip number 2, which is to perfect your building flow. Here's something a lot of good pros do. They build in almost like a sequence before they pull their guns out, just making sure they don't overbuild. Because if you're caught overbuilding while going for piece control, your offense turns into defense and your opponent gets the first shot off. What you should focus on doing here is just build just enough to where your opponent is in an unrecoverable condition and then go for a quick shot and then reset. Maybe even finishing the fight before resetting. You just have to get a feel for what your opponent's doing. He could be staring at you or trying to get into a comfortable position to shoot you. Don't worry, you'll get a feel for it once you start adding it to your game and learning player tendencies. And the last tip I have is just to simply close the gap with confidence. One thing I hate doing is getting somebody weak and then choking the held advantage without trading any shots. Something I do before I get into close range is to get confidence by getting chip damage on my opponent. And the more damage I get, the more confidence I have to finish the fight quickly. When I get close range and I'm healthier than my opponent, I go for full piece control, closing the gap, building every single piece possible to get as close to my opponent as I can so I can 1. Not take damage, and 2. Get my opponent into a position where he can't leave and just challenge me. Piece control is very tricky and will take a while to learn. I recommend watching any top placing pro to pick up on what they do and add it to your own playstyle. Benji Fishy, Arkram, Reet, Fishy, Unknown Army, and basically anybody who consistently places. Maybe you won't get instant results, but do not worry. With a lot of practice, fights will become so much easier, and you'll have kids look lost in your next montages. Trust me. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed, please subscribe and or use my supporter creator code SLY2K.